All right, everybody, how's it going? It's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history living inside your mess of an aquarium. So, today we are going to talk about rehabbing aquariums. So, maybe you have an aquarium and it's just old and grimy and, it's just bad. So, in this tank, it used to be aquascaped very nicely with manzanita, driftwood, and CO2 running and a nice Fluval 3.0 light on it. I probably could use two of them, to be honest. And it has all its fish in here, which is another issue we'll talk about. And it's aquascaped with aqua soil. So you can see this aqua soil is breaking down on the top layer, and it's actually a deep enough bed here that we have something to work with. But you can also see that is some bluish gray colored banding going on here, and what that is cyanobacteria. That's not good. Some of it can be harmless for a while, but too much of it's never a good thing, and you always want to nip it in the bud before it gets too out of control. You can see that there's fish in here, and they're all looking pretty healthy. Everyone's doing okay. The nitrite levels are zero. The ammonia levels are zero. The nitrate levels are around 60, so they're high right now. So what we need to do is keep these plants growing, and actually we need to help it more, because what's happened is moss has really taken over the dark area and really just taken a lot of growth over. And we've got stones, and if you recall on this tank, it's actually built up a little differently than my other tanks, in that there's lava rock sandbags. They're actually large filter media bags, but they're built up, and it makes the tank slope upward as we move back in the tank, and that'll help give it a nice effect of looking smaller in the distance if we use smaller plants back there and so forth. Now, what you've missed so far, I already started this process, and then I thought, you know what, I bet other people will go through this, and maybe I can help them, or be of a little bit of help. Maybe they can put some tidbits of information in here, even for people who've been doing this a while, of how to make this go as smooth as possible. So in here, we do have spawning fish. We have angel couple that will spawn pretty regularly in here. He's getting a little stressed already. You can see his stripes are not so solid. So be on the lookout for how your fish look before you start these processes. The other thing is, I cut these plants from my aquascape tank upstairs. So everything that's floating here, let's get it all together so you can see. This is all fresh plant material that we're going to actually put into this aquarium and root it, get it planted and set up nicely. We've got some Pinnatifada, some Rotala, some Ludwigia Red Star, and some Kabamba caroliniatus, and also some Kabamba furcata, as well as some Hygrophila and some Golden Nicea. Yeah, that's about it right now. So, and in here we've got Hygrophila, or blue, and Coriumbosa mostly growing in here. Taiwan nymphoides, Nicea crenulus, I think is how you say it. And then just odd bits of old Kabamba caroliniatus. It's scraggly. It's not doing well. It was reaching. So the first step I did, and I don't need to show this. You guys will know this, and this isn't in everyone's aquarium. It's not the case. But I had a thick layer of duckweed. So I took care of that. I got rid of all the duckweed by just skimming the top. I splashed kind of with my hand ahead of it and just took care of the duckweed and the water lettuce. It'll grow back in. It does help suck up nitrates and nitrites, which is what I like about it, because I run a heavy load of fish in the tanks. I do frequently keep a lot of fish in my tanks at one time, and so it helps as being a buffer of sorts for that. Now, if you take a look at this tank over here, this is exactly what the top of the other tank looked like. So I took care of that. I saved the Salvinia red root floaters, anything that I thought, okay, I want to keep that, or that's a plant that is a little unusual, I held on to. So put that aside into other plants in the rack over here, and so everything's just hanging out. And the other thing that I've begun doing, and this I won't bore you with either because it takes forever, and really there's no quick and easy way to do this, but you see moss that looks just dingy and dirty. Now, if you have an extra tank around the house, you can let fish come and pick off of it and eat it and clean it for you, and that'll work. But this is actually starting to get some blackbeard algae on it. It's starting to get some problems. And even though my little Pandagaras and, my algae eaters do try their best is not good enough. And so we're going to have to take all of that out. So we're going to take all this out. We're going to clean it off. There's going to be a lot of debris. So we're going to have to clean most of this tank. And when we do that, it's going to kick up substrate, which has these fine dust particles, which is just really fish poo that has been broken down to a extreme degree. And because of that, it can release ammonia if you just kick it up willy-nilly, and if you're not careful. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to clean out everything that's floating that needs to be out of there. And for me, this is fine. That's enough. And then we're going to trim any sort of plants that are going to be getting out of here. These ones have some blackbeard algae growing on them. These ones have some algae growing on them. So there's some troublesome plants. We're going to trim all that just time by time. There's lots of videos I've done on how to trim different types of plants. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get all this moss just by hand, just clump by clump. We're going to have to get it out, and we're going to sort it into usable moss and no moss. So I've already started. Just to show you, I had literally when I weighed it on our bathroom scale in one of these bowls, I had 4 pounds of moss, and that was ringed out. That was dirty moss. So that's how I'm able to breed tetras and things in a colony situation, is just with that much moss, something always survived. But we don't want that anymore. Now we want light coming in. I want to use the substrate again. And I'm going to be moving soon, so I want to basically, we want to get the water it's not dirty by any means, but I want it to be even more clear of any particulate matter and stuff like that. So we're going to definitely swap out the filters. They've gotten very old and gnarly, and if you know anything about this filter here, it used to have a slide, which I got rid of. It used to have a piece of plastic that I would allow it to grow out into the tank with, and that plastic would continue this slime. It's actually a mix of algae, bacteria, moss, and slime mold, which is a very unusual creature in its own right. But I let it grow out, and then I'll let it be under the water for the fish like my Pandagaras that love eating it, and for various other algae-loving fish. It really does help spawn them. So that might be unique to my situation. You might not have to deal with that, but we are going to have to deal with all this. So we'll be gravel vacuuming after we get rid of and trim and pull all the other dirty stuff. That's going to kick up a ton of debris. We need to really extra aerate the water, so it's going to be up to your discretion. You can either put an air stone or two in here, or hang off the back filters very high so that the fish have a lot of oxygen, or you can also just take the fish out depending on how many fish you have. I have a lot of fish here. I'm gonna probably take out the ones that I can. I'll get another bucket and a little portable battery pump, and I'll be running that simultaneously. They'll be in there for a few hours while I work on this. And then the other thing we're gonna do while we're in there is actually move around some of these rocks, so we're utilizing more of the grow space. You can see there's lots of bettas in here and stuff like that too. So I'm just gonna slowly start taking, I already know this moss is safe or savable because I went through it the other day. And there may be some exceptions. You know, I may find a little piece like here. Like this piece, I don't know if I want to bother cleaning up like this level of potential blackbeard algae. But what we're gonna do after we get all this moss out, anyways, since there is so much of it, we're gonna then take antibiotics, and we're going to kind of sort of nuke the tank with antibiotics. And I don't mean that in like we're going to just slam it with antibiotics that are harsh. We're actually going to take erythromycin, which is a pretty light, it's not a hardcore antibiotic, and we're going to put that in the tank after we've changed the water, after I dirty the water, because like I said, it's going to get lots of particulate matter when we move this moss. This moss is just a sponge for anything that's floating in the water right now, so we need to make sure that we're keeping an eye out for that. And like I said, here's more pieces. This stuff can go. A lot of it will not actually have ammonia or be a problem. It's just mulm. So it's up to you aesthetically how you feel about it. To me, it's part of an ecosystem, and I know that short of literally restarting the tank, I'm not going to take care of it. Like, I'm not going to get it all. So I'm not going to worry about it in that extreme. I'm not going to worry about it in that extreme. And we're going to assume that the level of antibiotics, and then also that'll take care of the cyanobacteria, that greenish blue growth in the subsurface soil in the front windows. That'll take care of that, because we'll also be raking up some of that soil to deal with it. There's also water in the bucket with the moss, where I'm putting this moss, just so you know, in case there's shrimp or fish or whatever, which I'm sure there are in here. But like this is questionable, because a lot of it washes right off, but a clump like that is not going to. So it depends on how needy and specific you want to get. But you can go through it with a fine-tooth comb if you feel like it, and you would be still probably likely to have it come right back. That's the sad truth about all these algae and bacterias, is once you kind of get them, you've kind of got them, until you take drastic measures like killing off all the bacteria. And really, what we want to do is have a healthy balance of these bacterias and algae and moss. And so that's our goal, is to just cut everything back to a healthy level, and to also then make sure that the substrate doesn't release a bunch of ammonia and nitrites on us as we are clearing things out either. So be aware of that. Also be aware, Corydoras catfish, I know they're cute and lovable, but they have spines, and so do some plecos, so do some other catfish. Just catfish in general, be careful with them, because they are venomous. Catfish of several varieties in the hobby are venomous. And Corydoras, I've had them when I've accidentally put my hand down on one and kind of grabbed it. I've had it actually sting me pretty good, got me pretty good. So be careful about that when you're working with those little critters. I'm sorting it into the bucket of toss away and keep, and we're starting to make progress here. We're not going to keep you along for this whole ride. I'll log off here, so to speak, and then check back in with you guys shortly. Look at this growth. That's just so beautiful. I mean, I could use this in some other aquascape. This moss is some of the longest moss I've ever grown. Still coming. That's all one span. This stuff's called orangutan hair, and it's a species that has yet to have a Latin name that I know of, or that the dealer that gave it to me knows of. If you guys know what orangutan hair is, what species of moss that is, or if it's been named in the years since it's been going around the last few years, known as orangutan fur or orangutan moss, let me know. Put that in the comments. And also, if you have any little tricks that you think would help people, feel free to put those in the comments too. So I'm gonna go away from. I'm gonna leave you guys alone. See, the angelfish are hunting the shrimp right now. The moss is gone, and so these shrimp are now revealed. And so you can definitely end up losing some of them if you don't leave them some cover. So I've left a stack of rocks, and also I will leave some algae and some moss in one corner, and then we'll do pretty much the whole tank other than that. And then we're gonna clear everything up, kick everything up, trim all the plants, and then we'll actually take that unclean water, we'll gravel back low down into the tank through the substrate, and we'll kind of kick up that top inch or half inch in this 2.5 inch bed, which is a rather deep bed of aqua soil, honestly. Just happens to be in this case. And then we will refill it with water that we've treated with erythromycin, which is an antibiotic, so that'll kill the cyanobacteria. And then we'll also probably be treating it with some carbon, and then we're going to use CO2 and light starvation. You can refer to my other videos, how to kill algae fast, or 3 methods of killing algae. We're going to try that first, but blackbeard algae is a really tough one. And so we're going to see if maybe we can just get the equilibrium to do its thing and it'll be okay. Like maybe it'll just work itself out. I don't know. Sometimes you'll get other mosses that will, or not other mosses, other algae that will just establish themselves and take over that niche in the web of life in your tank, because you're never going to get rid of all the algae in your tank. Even a crystal clear perfect aquascape has algae. It's just microscopic, so something to be aware of. Also, just be careful when you lift big pieces like this out. Know that you could be smushing a little fella, and that there's probably shrimp and things on there. That's why it's a bucket of dechlorinated water. And I'm not worried about the temperature of that water, so you don't need to baby it or anything. And I'm not worried about, see, I can see there's shrimp stuck on here. I'm not worried about them at all either, in the water, in the house, in summer for a few hours, whatever, it's no big deal. So that's going on, and it should also be known, have clean hands when you do this. Make sure you wash your hands thoroughly. I feel like that's a given when you put your hands in an aquarium. And don't go putting your hands in this tank and then another tank and then back into this tank. You know, don't do that unless you know that they're all sharing plants and biomes pretty much anyways. Like the plants that came from the tank upstairs, I have no problem putting my hands in that tank and then this tank, but I would not do the reverse because of the algae. So we're going to do that, and then we'll probably get some of the algae eaters in here. We'll probably get some of the reticulated algae eaters. That's the very best species. They'll eat black hair algae, blackbeard algae, and then we're going to use hydrogen peroxide and a syringe to spot treat little areas of it, like on the filters and things like that, when we're cleaning it up for the final reveal sort of thing. So you can see all the shrimp are kind of freaking out right now. They're like, where are we gonna go? And right here we've got more dirty moss. Some of it just has mulm in it, and you can kind of just drag it through the water and figure out what's mulm versus what's not. And like I said, this moss, even if it looks clean, this is gonna have, I mean, this clearly has blackbeard algae on it, but some of it is gonna have it, even when it looks crystal clear, beautiful green moss, it's just gonna have it, guys. And that's just life. Microscopically, it probably has 5 or 6 kinds of algae on it. You're just trying to stop the big colonies that are establishing themselves at this point, and then we'll mitigate it down the road with upkeep. So that's all we're doing right now, and I will check back with you in the end. We're pretty much done. That's the overview of how we're going to do this, but I will show you guys the final reveal in a few hours of work for me and a few seconds for you. Also, if you like these plants, you like these fish, anything that you see in here, hardware-wise or species-wise, almost all of it came from Aquatic Arts. So if you like if you like it, if you love it, check out aquaticarts.com, and there's also links to it in the description below, as well as links to my Patreon. If this is saving you from literally like nuking your tank again, this is a way to get shrimp off too, is you just dip it, turn it, dip it, turn it. This piece of wood is so inundated with algae that I'm just gonna probably toss it, or, well, more realistically, instead of tossing it, I'm gonna go place it outside. I'm gonna put it in the outdoor aquarium. Sorry guys, I'm filming the light bar on you. I'm gonna go put these in the outside aquarium because they're just waiting to invade with algae the whole tank. And it's fine, like I said, there can be some algae, we just don't want that whole colony establishing itself of the blackbeard algae. That's the one that's driving me nuts. So, all right. So in the shake of a lamb's tail, I'll be back in your time, and it'll be a couple hours in my time. We'll be sucking up these little spots of floating algae too, and yeah. So let's get it done. Here comes some hours of work. So here's the last stage. This is kind of almost clean at this point, and then we'll get to cleaning the substrate, changing the water, planting the plants, and you'll see the result afterwards. All right, guys, I'll see you in a sec. All right, everybody, so we're getting there. I'm showing you a technique right now that makes life a lot easier. So what this technique is you're going to take a big size net. You can start with a small one, and you're going to go down into areas like down in here, and you're just going to kind of pull up whatever's loose on the bottom. You see that kicking up? You're going to pull that up. That's going to let you get a lot of debris out of there. Now, what's more than that, once you've done that with a small net, you get a bigger net like this one. You get a bigger net, see, compared to my hand, and what you're going to do is you're going to drag it through the water with some speed and some force. One direction all the way through, like this. And you're going to push it all the way to the bottom. And what that's going to do is it's going to kick up all this debris. So you got everything from old dead roots to, there's going to be, if you have snails, a lot of these little snail shell castings. I'm sure we'll see one in a sec. Let me find you guys some of those. So you never know what you're going to pick up. It'll be dead snails or snail shell castings. And then you got to keep moving in a circular motion and really kind of sweep the perimeters too. But what you're going to do is you're going to sweep. So you sweep around, sweeping here. Oops, just knocked the light down a peg. So there's snail castings. See these? That's where their egg castings were left. And that is, they'll just stay like that indefinitely for a very long time, for years. So you want to get those when you can. And you're just going to keep bringing it around in the same direction, whatever direction that is. And you're going to go low, slow, forceful. I mean, not so slow that nothing's getting picked up, but you want to go forceful enough so that the water starts moving in a circle. And then all of a sudden you switch directions. And so once we get this little whirlpool going, we'll switch directions. And try not to get caught up on hardscape. I just did that. On there's a bag and the strap just came off in there. So that caught me up for a sec. But you can brush any plants that are still in the water lightly also. And right now I'm floating some plants. So I also don't want to accidentally throw away plants like that. But I've also gone in and I've just loosened up, like you can see here, loosened up all the roots that were looking dark, that were looking dingy, that have this moss and algae on it like this. So I'm going to take all this stuff. You see how much cleaner we are now? We kicked it up into the water column. See all these, this is more snail eggs, these golden colored things. But we kicked this off into the water column, these castings, and what we'll do is we'll get a good filter on here, a brand new one. Don't worry about using carbon or treating the water with antibiotics or any of that yet. We just want to get a good filter on there, a good mechanical filter. You're just getting rid of the mechanical, using mechanical filtration, getting rid of the waste. And we're still just sweeping one direction, gently but firm. And then what we do is we switch directions, and the current just sweeps all that right into your net. And you can see how I'm going over everything. And that sweeps it right into your net, and then you can do a few cleanup strokes, and then what you do is you start that process over again, start a little kind of, not whirlpool, but a little current going. And then, as you know, I've got buckets delineated, so all this sludge and stuff goes into the bucket, whereas my good bucket has plants and trimmings and things I want to keep. So now we're going to let this settle, and I'm going to plant it and do a water change. And right now I'm going to spread out some of these new plants just because the fish are really stressed right now. Also, it's important, if you're going to do this and leave the fish in the tank like this, put some anti-chlorination stuff in there. I don't care whether you want to use an anti-dechlorinator, that is, or an something like stress coat. But whatever it may be, you want it to have dechlorination properties at a minimum for chloramines and chlorine and ammonia. And then you also want to have some stress coat or catappa leaves or something like that for them, as well as what we discussed earlier with the aeration. So we're going to be back soon. These guys want food. Can't feed them because that'll be more ammonia. But you can see now we've got a relatively nice looking bed. It'll be dusty. We'll have to let it clean. We'll have to do a couple water changes, but we've got a relatively open area now, which was a tangle of weeds. And here we can see we'll be cutting with scissors some of these little root ball things and stuff. Like this just doesn't need to be so crazy. So we can shake it off, we can get rid of the deadhead roots on it, we can kind of ball off that, and we can bury it. And to me, I'm burying all the kabamba over here. So this will all be growing in kabamba. These are going to be lower lying plants. Curula, Logonandra bolde Curula, or Curulensis, I should say. And then here, look at this stem. It's hiding back in here, but this one break off stem, this one fork in the road is causing problems. Look at that black algae. Now, even the rest of the plant is okay, so I'm going to pop off the leaves there. Up here, look, this plant is great, but its base is no good. So check right at the soil line and even under the soil line slightly, if you can, if you have time. So, and then we'll trim all this off probably too, just so I can see 100% what I'm working with. Like here looks like could be some more potential issues. Why not trim it? And here we've got a little more mulm, so we'll go through and sweep that one more time too. And then we'll plant plants. You'll see the final results of this. Is going on hour 4.5 of work. So it takes time, but it'll show. We've got the rockery rebuilt up for the shrimp to be hiding in now. It'll show. I know it's a bit of a long video, but I hope that maybe this taught you a little something, or maybe you can help someone in the comments who is looking for a little bit of help with any one of these processes, because refreshing an old tank feels overwhelming, and a lot of times you want to just throw the darn thing out, but don't. It's a microbiome and algae and microcrustacean snails, fry even, all of it's in here. It's all good stuff, important stuff that takes years to culture in a tank and in an environment. So there's no shortcutting it, and there's no getting a fully cycled tank like this any other way. So it's worth it, even if you see black hair algae or, whatever, blackbeard algae, green hair algae, things like that. All right, magic of editing. Let's see you in a sec. I know this video is getting long, so let's bring it on home. All right, guys, here we go. This is the final snap to the tank overhaul. So you can see here, there's still some dirt and dust settling. Also, this mossy log will be have to be taken care of on its own a bit. Just over time, I'm sure that the snails will work their magic and the fish will clean things off. We've still got a lot of the moss back here and rocks to kind of give it that feel that it's back in there and wooded. But then we've got some Logonodrome boldi, some crypts, and some other lower growing plants for the center here. And then some colorful Rottallas here, Ludwigias. Then there's also some little hiding spots for the shrimp also, since we got rid of a lot of their hiding spots over here. And then the angelfish still can have their little corner if they want it. If we take a look over here, they hung out mostly in this corner over here, and we still see them. Now you can see that there's a lot of dirt and debris still settling in here, but we'll have to kind of give it some time and really see what settles out. Now we can finally see the cories again and a lot of the underbrush critters, so to speak, which is nice. Also, we replanted some lilies back here and the blue hygrophilia back there. We're gonna readjust the not the thermostat, the heater, so that it's at an angle and up out of the water a bit. And then, like I said, so now we can see the cories, we can see the Siamese algae eater. We've got a reticulated Siamese algae eater that I'm going to bring down here. Hopefully he'll finish off some of this, but we also cleaned up a good amount of the filtration here. Left enough algae to start for my Pandagaras and things to hang out. But overall, what a big change that is. And hopefully this will just provide more and more growing space. Also the bettas, they can still hide up there in the moss, and as the moss kind of fluffs back up, it should give everybody more room to do their thing. So that is the overhaul, and now we'll just be doing a few more water changes. And as you can see, things look a little dingy, just the endlers that are up in here and stuff, things look a little dingy just from all the debris that was kicked around. You can see right there how bad it looks from what came out of the filtration. But we won't have to worry about that very soon. Probably hit it one more time with the gravel vac and then top it off with water again. You can even see the gudgeons. And lastly, we took a credit card to the glass here and got rid of some of the most egregious cyanobacteria. It hadn't colonized a lot of deep into the substrate. It was mostly on the glass, luckily. So we're still going to treat it with a round of erythromycron, just a mild antibiotic, a gram-positive antibiotic. Doesn't need to be a gram-negative one. And we should have some pretty colorful Kabamba furcatas in there, as well as some red star Ludwigias, and then the lilies should kind of start blooming at an angle there. But the sandbags are a little more exposed now. And in those sandbags also we have filtration medium from another project a ways back. And what I think I'm going to do is add some caves again, because I just took them out. But I think we'll add some PVC pipes, holes underneath the bottom of the sandbags, so that along here there's a row that looks a little organic and staggered of, there you can see the bags, but so that it looks organic. But that's that. So if you enjoyed this, if this helped you out, I'm glad it could help you a little bit. And boy, did I make a mess. This water is what I cleaned, obviously soaked all the new filter floss in, and left half of the filter media the same as always, just like you would cleaning a tank normally. And now it's time to sit back and just enjoy the tank the next few days and make sure everyone's doing well. You know, things will grow in a lot more very quickly here, but you can see the different heights already of where there'll be some tall plants here, 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 and maybe a few here in short order, and then it'll be up to me trimming to decide where else I want them. But that will be how it runs, and then this should stay about like it is, as a nice hiding spot for, you can see who there's bettas and other critters hiding in there, the shrimp are hiding in there, so everything should be good on that order. Alright guys, if you want to support this school of cool fish, you can go to Patreon and help me do these renovations and things. As we were looking at earlier, still stressed out, wants more cover, and so remember to pick an index species of fish and just kind of see how they're doing. If he doesn't get more color back in a few more hours, we might move him to another tank. But it's a good indicator of how everyone's doing, is just seeing their colors and their markings, making sure they still look nice and vivid, and that they have hiding spots. So you can see there's a few more we could probably build that would be good. And the shrimp are already getting to work eating stuff, even with the predatory fish awake and up and out and about. So that's that. That wraps up this video, and if you need to know more about cycling or getting rid of algae or any one of these problems that we touched on so many of, check out my previous videos in my playlists on water and aquascaping, water science and parameters, or on aquascaping and tank overhaul tutorials, things like that. Lots of good playlists, lots of good videos that will get you going on anything that you may have questions about. And always you can leave a question if you have one that I did not answer. Alright guys, we'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Bye.